In the scorching desert of Karbala, a small group of 72 men, women, and children faced an army of 30,000 soldiers. They had no chance of survival, no hope of military victory, yet they stood firm. This is not just a story of a battle. This is the story of the greatest stand for truth and justice in human history. This is the story of Imam Hussain ibn Ali, the beloved grandson of Prophet Muhammad, and his ultimate sacrifice that changed the world forever. On the 10th of Muharram, 61 AD, a day known as Ashura, something happened in the desert of Karbala that transcends religion, culture, and time. It's a story of courage against impossible odds, of principle over survival, of dignity over defeat. Even 14 centuries later, millions gather every year to mourn what happened on that day, to remember the sacrifice, and to renew their commitment to standing against oppression. This is the complete story of Karbala, from the political crisis that led to it, through the journey to the desert, the siege, the heartbreaking martyrdoms, and the aftermath that shook the Islamic world. Whether you're Muslim or not, whether you've heard this story before or this is your first time, prepare yourself for a narrative that will move your heart and challenge your understanding of courage. To understand Karbala, we must first understand what led to it. After Prophet Muhammad's death in 632 CE, the Muslim community was led by 4 caliphs known as the rightly guided caliphs: Abu Bakr, Umar, Usman, and Ali. These leaders were chosen through consultation and were known for their piety, justice, and commitment to Islamic principles. However, after Ali's assassination in 661 CE, something changed. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, the powerful governor of Syria, claimed the caliphate and ruled for 20 years. While Muawiyah maintained some Islamic practices, he also introduced something completely alien to Islam. He declared his own son, Yazid, as his successor, turning the caliphate into a hereditary monarchy. This was revolutionary and controversial. The Prophet Muhammad himself had not appointed his son-in-law Ali as his successor. Abu Bakr had not appointed his son. Umar had not appointed his son. The caliphate had always been based on merit, piety, and consultation, not bloodline. But Muawiyah changed everything, forcing people to pledge allegiance to Yazid even before Muawiyah's own death. Yazid ibn Muawiyah was everything a Muslim leader should not be. Historical sources describe him as a man who openly drank alcohol, kept hunting dogs and monkeys as entertainment, engaged in immoral activities, and showed little regard for Islamic teachings. He represented wealth, power, and pleasure, the complete opposite of the prophetic model of leadership that emphasized humility, justice, and service. When Muawiyah died in April 680 CE, Yazid immediately claimed the throne and demanded that all prominent Muslims publicly pledge allegiance to him. The most important person whose allegiance he sought was Imam Hussain ibn Ali, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, son of Ali and Fatima, and one of the most respected figures in the Muslim world. For Yazid, Hussein's pledge of allegiance meant accepting the corruption of Islamic governance and betraying everything his grandfather had taught. Hussein faced an impossible choice: submit to tyranny and live, or refuse and face certain death. For most people, survival would be the obvious choice, but Hussein was not most people. He was the one whom Prophet Muhammad had called the leader of the youth of paradise. He was raised in a household where principle mattered more than life itself.
When Yazid's governor in Medina, Walid ibn Utbah, summoned Hussein to demand his allegiance, Hussein refused to give it publicly. He knew that refusing meant he could no longer stay in Medina safely. That night, on the 28th of Rajab, 60 AH, May 680 CE, Hussein made the painful decision to leave the city of his birth, the city of his grandfather's grave, the city where his mother and brother were buried. With his family and a small group of loyal companions, Hussein left Medina under the cover of darkness, heading toward Mecca. He was 54 years old, leaving behind everything he had known for an uncertain future. As he departed, he recited verses from the Quran. So he escaped from there, apprehensive and anticipating. He said, "My Lord, save me from the wrongdoing people." Mecca was significant for two reasons. It was the holiest city in Islam, and its sanctuary, the Haram, had been a place of safety even in pre-Islamic times where bloodshed was forbidden. Hussein hoped that in Mecca he would be safe from Yazid's threats and could decide his next move. The journey from Medina to Mecca took several days. During this time, news of Hussein's refusal to pledge allegiance to Yazid spread throughout the Islamic world. Muslims everywhere began discussing what this meant. Some admired his courage, others worried about the consequences, still others saw an opportunity. When Hussein arrived in Mecca, he was received with great honor and respect. The people of Mecca loved him for who he was, the grandson of their prophet, a man of known piety and character. He took residence in the city and began receiving visitors from across the Muslim world who came to express their support. But the most significant visitors came from Kufa, a major city in present-day Iraq. The people of Kufa had a complicated history with Hussein's family. They had invited his father, Ali, to lead them, but many had abandoned him during conflicts. They had pledged support to his brother Hassan, but then failed to back him against Muawiyah. Now, with Yazid's oppressive rule beginning, they were reaching out again. The letters from Kufa began arriving in large numbers. Historians say thousands of letters came, all saying essentially the same thing. "We have no imam. Come to us. Through you, Allah may unite us upon truth and guidance. We pledge our support. We are ready to stand with you against Yazid's tyranny." Hussein was cautious. He knew the history. He knew the people of Kufa were unreliable, easily swayed by bribes and threats. But he also faced a dilemma. If he stayed silent while they called for help, wouldn't that be abandoning them? If they were sincere, didn't they deserve leadership that would guide them back to true Islamic principles? After much contemplation and prayer, Hussein made a decision. He would send his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqeel, as his representative to Kufa to assess the situation. If the people's support was genuine and substantial, Hussein would consider going there. If not, he would know to stay away. Muslim ibn Aqeel was a trusted, brave, and intelligent man, perfect for this dangerous mission. He left Mecca for Kufa with letters of introduction from Hussein. When Muslim arrived in Kufa, the response was overwhelming. Thousands of people came to pledge their allegiance to Hussein through Muslim. Within days, 18,000 people had taken the oath, promising to support Hussein against Yazid. Muslim sent an optimistic letter back to Hussein. "The situation is favorable. The people are with you. Come to Kufa."
But what Muslim didn't fully realize was that Yazid had already made his move. He appointed a ruthless and cunning governor named Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to control Kufa. Ibn Ziyad was known for his brutality and his absolute loyalty to Yazid. His mission was clear: crush any support for Hussein by any means necessary. Ibn Ziyad arrived in Kufa disguised, observing the situation before revealing himself. When he finally declared his position as the new governor, he immediately began a campaign of terror. He announced that anyone supporting Hussein would be killed, their property confiscated, and their families punished. Anyone who harbored Hussein's representatives would face the same fate. He offered huge bribes to tribal leaders to switch sides. The effect was immediate and devastating. The same people who had pledged allegiance to Hussein through Muslim now abandoned him out of fear and greed. Tribal leaders who had promised support suddenly became silent. The 18,000 supporters melted away like snow in the desert sun. Muslim ibn Aqeel found himself alone and hunted. The family that had been sheltering him, fearing for their lives, asked him to leave. He wandered the streets of Kufa, desperately seeking shelter. Eventually, he was betrayed, captured, and brought before Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad mocked him. "You came to divide the people and turn them against their leader?" Muslim responded with dignity.
I came because the people called for guidance toward truth, but you have terrorized them into silence. Ibn Ziyad ordered Muslims' execution. Before he was killed, Muslim asked to send one final message to Hussein. Do not come to Kufa. The people have betrayed you. Turn back to Mecca or Medina. Save yourself and your family. Muslim was killed on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, 60 AH. His head was cut off and sent to Yazid in Damascus as proof of Ibn Ziyad's efficiency in eliminating Hussein's support. Muslim's murder was the first blood spilled in this tragedy, but it would not be the last. Meanwhile, back in Mecca, Hussein was unaware of these developments. He continued receiving optimistic letters from Kufa, sent before Ibn Ziyad's arrival, encouraging him to come. The month of Dhul Hijjah arrived, and with it the season of Hajj pilgrimage. Hussein began preparing for Hajj, but he also started preparations for a journey to Kufa, still believing his cousin's earlier assessment that the people there would support him. He gathered his family members and informed them of his decision. Many tried to dissuade him. Abdullah ibn Abbas, a respected cousin and scholar, begged him, "Don't go to Kufa. The people there are treacherous. They killed your father's supporters and betrayed your brother. They will do the same to you." Abdullah ibn Umar, son of the second caliph, pleaded, "Don't oppose Yazid. Stay in Mecca or go into the desert. Don't give them the opportunity to kill you." Abdullah ibn Jafar, another cousin married to Hussein's sister Zainab, offered, "I will pledge allegiance to Yazid on your behalf. Just stay safe." But Hussein had made his decision. He explained, "My grandfather's Islam cannot survive under Yazid's rule. If I remain silent, I legitimize his corruption. If I must die to preserve the truth, then that is what I must do." On the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, just 2 days before Hajj, Hussein received intelligence that Yazid had sent 30 assassins to kill him during the Hajj rituals in Mecca itself. Yazid was willing to violate the sanctity of the Haram, the holiest place in Islam, to eliminate Hussein. Hussein could not allow bloodshed in the sacred sanctuary. He made an immediate decision. He would leave Mecca and head toward Kufa, performing Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage, instead of Hajj. This way, the sanctity of Mecca would be preserved.
On the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, 60 AD, September 10th, 680 CE, Imam Hussain left Mecca with his family and companions, heading toward Kufa. His caravan consisted of about 72 men, including elderly men and young boys, and around 50 women and children. Among them were his sons, Ali Asghar, aged 18, a young man known for his resemblance to Prophet Muhammad; his infant son, Ali Asghar, 6 months old; his nephew Qasim, son of Hassan, about 13 years old; his half-brother Abbas, aged 34, known for his loyalty and bravery; his sister Zainab, a woman of extraordinary courage and faith; his daughters, including the young Sukaina; various other family members and loyal companions. As the caravan traveled through the desert toward Iraq, Hussein received the devastating news. Muslim ibn Aqeel had been killed, the people of Kufa had abandoned their pledges, and Ibn Ziyad controlled the city with an iron fist. The support Hussein had expected no longer existed. Hussein gathered his companions and gave them a choice. "You all heard the news. Muslim is martyred, and the people of Kufa have betrayed us. Anyone who wants to leave may do so freely, without any shame. This is my family's battle, and you have no obligation to die with us." That night, under the cover of darkness, many companions slipped away. By morning, only the most devoted remained, those who had chosen to stand with Hussein not out of hope for victory, but out of commitment to truth. Among those who stayed was an elderly man named Muslim ibn Ausaja, who said, "Should I leave you? No, by Allah. I will stab them with my spear, strike them with my sword, and throw them stones until I die with you." A young man named Zuhair ibn Qayn, who had initially tried to avoid Hussein's caravan, had a change of heart after his wife encouraged him to at least meet the Prophet's grandson. After speaking with Hussein, Zuhair sent his family away to safety and stayed, saying, "I choose the hereafter over this world." The caravan continued toward Kufa, but they would never reach the city. On the 2nd of Muharram, 61 AD, as they traveled through the desert, they encountered the vanguard of Ibn Ziyad's army, a force of 1,000 horsemen led by a commander named Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. Hur's orders were clear: intercept Hussein's caravan and prevent them from going to Kufa or returning to Mecca. Force them into a barren area where they have no support and no escape. Hur blocked their path, and after some negotiations he forced Hussein's caravan to divert to a desolate place called Karbala. Karbala was a barren plain near the Euphrates River, hot, isolated, and strategically disadvantageous. When Hussein saw where they had been forced to camp, he asked local people, "What is this place called?" They replied, "Karbala." Hussein's face became solemn. He remembered his grandfather's prophecy, the one made when he was just an infant. "This is the place of suffering, karb, and trial, bala. This is where I will be martyred." The caravan set up camp in Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram. The Euphrates River was nearby, providing water. For the next few days, they remained in this position while more and more of Yazid's forces arrived to surround them. By the 7th of Muharram, approximately 30,000 soldiers had surrounded Hussein's small camp. The commander of this massive force was Omar ibn Saad, ironically the son of Saad ibn Abi Waqqas, one of the Prophet's closest companions who had promised paradise. Omar ibn Saad had been promised the governorship of Ray, a wealthy province, if he successfully dealt with Hussein. Despite his father's connection to the Prophet's family, despite knowing who Hussein was, Omar ibn Saad chose worldly position over standing with truth. On the 7th of Muharram, Ibn Ziyad received explicit orders from Omar ibn Saad: prevent Hussein and his companions from accessing the water. Let them not drink a drop, just as they prevented water from Uthman ibn Affan. This was a false comparison. Hussein had never prevented anyone from water, but it gave Omar ibn Saad's soldiers a justification for their actions. They took control of the Euphrates River, posting guards to ensure no one from Hussein's camp could access it.
From the 7th of Muharram until the 10th, for 3 days and nights, Hussein's camp had no water. In the scorching desert heat of Iraq in the month of Muharram, this was torture. The adult men could endure, but the women, children, and especially the infants suffered terribly. The children's cries for water echoed through the camp. Mothers tried to comfort their babies but had no milk to give them because of their own dehydration. The elderly companions suffered from the heat and thirst, yet no one in Hussein's camp complained or suggested surrender. Abbas, Hussein's half-brother, was known for his bravery and his skill with the sword. He was also called Qamar Banu Hashim, the moon of the Hashemites, for his handsome appearance. Abbas made several attempts to reach the river to get water for the children. On one attempt, Abbas managed to break through the enemy lines with a small group and reach the river. He filled a water skin, but on the way back to camp, he was surrounded and attacked. His right arm was cut off, but he held the water skin with his left arm. When his left arm was also cut off, he tried to hold the water skin with his teeth. Finally, an arrow struck the water skin, spilling its contents onto the sand. Another arrow struck Abbas in the eye, and he fell from his horse. Hussein rushed to his dying brother. Abbas apologized with his last breaths. "Brother, I could not bring water to the children." Hussein wept over his brother's body, knowing that his strongest supporter was gone. During these days of siege, Hussein tried every possible way to avoid bloodshed. He proposed 3 options to Ibn Saad. First, let me return to Medina and live in peace there.
Ibn Sa'd considered this reasonable and sent it to Ibn Ziyad, but Ibn Ziyad refused, saying, "No, he must pledge allegiance to Yazid or die. Second, let me go to the frontier and spend my life fighting for Islam against enemies." Again, Ibn Sa'd forwarded this proposal, but Ibn Ziyad refused. This is a trick. He wants to escape. No compromise. Third, let me go to Yazid directly in Damascus and settle this matter between us. This too was refused. Ibn Ziyad sent a brutal message: force Hussein to pledge allegiance to Yazid immediately or attack him and kill him. I want his head. On the night of the 9th of Muharram, the night before Ashura, Hussein gathered his companions one final time. He extinguished the lamps and spoke in the darkness. "Tomorrow they will attack. Their target is me alone, not you. Tonight, under the cover of darkness, anyone who wishes can leave safely. Take my children with you as guides through the desert and escape. You owe me nothing. I release you from any obligation." The response was unanimous and immediate. One by one, his companions declared they would never abandon him. They spoke of their love for him, their commitment to truth, and their desire for martyrdom in such a noble cause. His half-brother, Abbas, said, "Why would we do that? So we may live after you? No, by Allah, may we never see such a day." His nephew, Qasim, only 13 years old, asked, "Uncle, am I also to die tomorrow?" When Hussein confirmed it, he smiled and said, "Then death is sweeter to me than honey." His son, Ali Asghar, just 18 years old, said, "Father, I seek nothing but your pleasure. To die with you is my greatest honor." That night was called the Night of Ashura. The companions spent it in prayer, Quran recitation, and worship. They knew it would be their last night alive. The sounds of Quran and prayers from Hussein's small camp could even be heard in the enemy army's camp, causing some soldiers to weep and question what they were about to do. The 10th of Muharram, 61 AH, October 10th, 680 CE, the day of Ashura, dawned hot and cloudless. Hussein led the Fajr prayer with his companions, knowing it would be their last prayer together. After prayer, he arranged his small force for battle. He had fewer than 72 fighting men against an army of 30,000. There was no hope of military victory, but that wasn't the point. This was not about winning a battle. It was about standing for truth regardless of the odds. Hussein addressed his companions one final time. "We are the family of the Prophet. Truth and justice are more beloved to us than life itself. These people have chosen worldly power over the hereafter. Let it be known on the day of judgment that we stood for truth when everyone else abandoned it." Then Hussein addressed the enemy army, reminding them who he was. "O people, I am the son of Ali and Fatima. I am the grandson of Muhammad. Has the Prophet's family become so worthless to you that you would kill us? Is this the gratitude you show to the Prophet?" Some soldiers in Yazid's army began to weep. Some even questioned what they were doing. But their commanders threatened them. Anyone who defects will be killed. Anyone who shows hesitation will be punished. Anyone who doesn't fight will lose their pay and position. The battle began. Hussein's companions went out one by one or in small groups to fight. The strategy was clear. Each companion would sacrifice himself to delay the inevitable, giving Hussein a few more moments of life, giving the message of Karbala a few more witnesses. Each companion who went to fight first came to Hussein to say goodbye. Each one expressed their love for him and the Prophet's family. Each one went to their death willingly, fighting against impossible odds. One by one, the companions fell as martyrs. Muslim ibn Ausaja, the elderly warrior, killed dozens before he was surrounded and martyred. Zuhair ibn Qayn fought valiantly, protecting Hussein until he too fell. Habib ibn Muzahir, an old man of 75, killed many before being martyred.
Burair ibn Hudayr, a Quran reciter, died with verses of Quran on his lips. The young men of the family went next. Qasim, the 13-year-old son of Hassan, asked permission to fight. Hussein initially refused, wanting to spare him, but Qasim insisted. He went to battle and fought courageously until he was surrounded and killed. When Hussein reached his body, his head had been trampled by horses, making him unrecognizable. Hussein wept over his nephew's mutilated body. One by one, all of Hussein's companions and family members were martyred. Each death brought unspeakable grief to the remaining few, but they continued. The sound of crying from the tents where the women and children waited was heartbreaking. By afternoon, only Hussein and his immediate family members remained alive. The time came for his beloved son, Ali Akbar. Ali Akbar was 18 years old, known for his striking resemblance to Prophet Muhammad. When people wanted to remember what the Prophet looked like, they would look at Ali Akbar. He was also a beautiful reciter of the Quran, with a voice that moved people to tears. Ali Akbar came to his father. "Father, permit me to fight." Hussein looked at his son, his firstborn, the one who resembled his great-grandfather, the pride of his heart, and could barely speak through his tears, but he gave permission. Ali Akbar fought with incredible courage, killing many soldiers, but he was young and eventually grew tired. The enemy surrounded him, and a soldier stabbed him in the back with a spear. Ali Akbar fell from his horse and called out, "Father, my last salam to you." Hussein rushed to his dying son. He took Ali Akbar in his arms as the young man breathed his last. Hussein's cry of grief shook the desert. "Now my back is broken. Now my strength is gone." He carried his son's body back to the tents, and the wailing from the women could be heard across the battlefield.
The situation grew more desperate. Hussein's infant son, Ali Asghar, was dying of thirst. The baby was only 6 months old and had been without water for 3 days. His cries had become weak, his lips dry and cracked, his small body dehydrated. Hussein made a final humanitarian appeal. He brought the baby out and showed him to the enemy army. "This child has done you no wrong. He has no political position. He is an infant who is dying of thirst. Even if you want to kill me, give water to this innocent baby." For a moment, it seemed humanity might prevail. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, unable to bear the sight of the suffering infant. But then a commander named Harmala, a skilled archer, saw an opportunity to gain favor with Ibn Ziyad. He notched an arrow and aimed not at Hussein, but at the baby in his arms. The 3-pronged arrow flew through the air and struck baby Ali Asghar in the throat, killing him instantly. The baby's blood spurted onto Hussein's hands and clothes. Hussein stood in shock, holding his dead infant son. He looked at the blood on his hands, then raised them to the sky and prayed, "O Allah, this is easy to bear because it is in your sight." He buried the baby right there on the battlefield with his own hands, the smallest grave in Karbala. Now the final moments approached. Everyone in Hussein's camp was either martyred or unable to fight. Only women, children, and the sick remained. Hussein himself was wounded in dozens of places, exhausted, thirsty for 3 days, and grieving the loss of his family and companions. But before his own martyrdom, Hussein performed his final prayer, the Asr, afternoon prayer. Despite the arrows flying around him, despite the blood and wounds, despite the exhaustion, he would not miss his prayer. Some companions who were wounded but alive joined him. They prayed under the shower of arrows, some being killed even while in prostration to Allah. After the prayer, Hussein mounted his horse one final time. He was now alone against an army of thousands. He rode toward the enemy, calling them to single combat in the honorable Arab tradition.
but no one dared to face him one-on-one. They knew who he was, the grandson of the Prophet, trained in combat by his father Ali, the Lion of God. So they attacked him from all sides, with arrows, swords, and spears. Historical accounts say Hussein's body received over 33 wounds from spears and swords, and more than 60 arrow wounds. Yet he continued fighting, defending his family's tents, refusing to surrender or submit to Yazid's illegitimate rule. Finally, weakened by blood loss and thirst, Hussein's horse brought him near the tents where his family waited. He dismounted and sat on the ground to rest. An enemy soldier named Shimr ibn Dil-Jawshan approached with a group of men. Hussein's young nephew, a boy of about 10 years old, ran out from the tents to protect his uncle. When Shimr raised his sword to strike Hussein, the boy raised his hand to block it, and Shimr cut off the child's hand. The boy ran back to the tents crying, and Hussein was left alone. Shimr stood over the wounded, weakened grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Hussein said, "You will kill me, and you know who I am. When you stand before Allah on the day of judgment, what will you say when my grandfather asks you about this day?" Shimr hesitated for just a moment, but then his desire for worldly reward overcame any remaining humanity. He struck Hussein with his sword, and others joined in. They struck the Prophet's grandson repeatedly, even as he lay wounded and weakened on the ground. Finally, Shimr cut off the Prophet's grandson's blessed head from his body. It was late afternoon on the 10th of Muharram, 61 AD. Imam Hussain ibn Ali, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, the leader of the youth of paradise, the man who refused to legitimize tyranny through his silence, was martyred at the age of 57.
What happened next was even more shocking than the massacre itself. After killing Hussein and all his male companions, the army of Ibn Sa'd did something unprecedented in Arab history. They rode their horses over the bodies of the martyrs, trampling them until they were unrecognizable. They looted the tents, taking whatever valuables the women had, even snatching earrings from the ears of the Prophet's family members. Then they set fire to the tents where the women and children had taken shelter. The family of the Prophet, sick, wounded, traumatized children, and grieving women were forced out of their burning tents into the open desert. Hussein's sister, Zainab bint Ali, emerged from the chaos with extraordinary courage. While others were paralyzed by grief and shock, Zainab took charge. She gathered the surviving children and women, protecting them from further abuse by the soldiers. Her strength in this darkest moment became legendary. The most heartbreaking scene was Hussein's 4-year-old daughter, Sakina, some sources say she was 6, looking for her father. She ran through the battlefield, checking the faces of the martyrs, calling, "Father, where are you?" When she finally found Hussein's headless body, her cries pierced the hearts of even the enemy soldiers. The head of Imam Hussein was cut off and raised on a spear. The heads of his companions and family members, about 72 in total, were also severed and mounted on spears. This gruesome display was Ibn Sa'd's proof of his victory. The survivors, consisting of about 30 women and children and one sick young man, Hussein's son, Ali Zain al-Abidin, who was too ill to fight, were taken as prisoners. Their hands were chained, and they were forced to march hundreds of miles, first to Kufa and then to Damascus, with the heads of their loved ones displayed on spears before them. In Kufa, Ibn Ziyad displayed the prisoners and the heads in his court. He took a stick and began striking Hussein's blessed head, hitting his lips disrespectfully. An elderly companion who was present, Zayd ibn Arqam, could not bear this. He cried out, "Remove your stick from those lips! By Allah, I have seen the Prophet kiss those lips!" Then Zainab bint Ali did something remarkable. Despite being a prisoner, despite the chains on her hands, despite having lost her brothers, nephews, sons, and seen her family massacred, she stood up and delivered a powerful speech to the people of Kufa.
Shame on you, O people of Kufa! Do you weep now? Why did you not weep when you betrayed Hussein? You wrote to him, you called him, you promised to support him, and then you killed him. You killed the grandson of your prophet, the son of Ali and Fatima. May your tears never dry, may you never find peace, for you have committed the greatest crime. Her words struck deep. Many people in Kufa who had been silent or complicit in Hussein's murder now realized the magnitude of what had happened. Guilt and regret began to spread. The prisoners were then taken to Damascus, to Yazid's court. The journey was brutal, made to walk in the scorching heat, barely given food or water, paraded through towns and cities as if they were criminals. When they arrived in Damascus, Yazid held a celebration. He sat on his throne with Hussein's head placed before him on a golden tray. He too struck the head with a stick, mocking and boasting about his victory. But again, Zainab arose to the occasion. In Yazid's own court, before all his officials and supporters, she delivered another powerful speech. You think you have won? You think you have defeated us? By killing Hussein, you have not defeated Islam, you have exposed your own corruption. Hussein is the winner, and you are the loser. You may have killed his body, but his message will live forever. People will remember Hussein's stand for truth for centuries, while your name will be cursed for generations. Yazid was shocked. He had expected the prisoners to be broken and humiliated, but instead Zainab's courage and eloquence exposed his crimes. Some accounts say that even Yazid began to feel regret, realizing that killing the prophet's grandson had not strengthened his rule, but it had instead created a martyr whose memory would haunt him forever. A Christian man in Yazid's court stood up and said to Yazid, "If Jesus Christ had left descendants and we had them, we would have honored them and placed them on our heads. But you have killed the grandson of your prophet and imprisoned his family. What kind of Muslims are you?" Eventually, fearing public backlash, Yazid released the prisoners. He sent them back to Medina, trying to distance himself from the massacre. But the damage was done. News of what happened at Karbala had spread throughout the Muslim world, and the outrage was universal.
The story of Karbala is not just a historical event from 1400 years ago. It is a living message, an eternal testament to human courage and divine purpose. In the scorching desert of Karbala, Imam Hussain and his companions wrote with their blood a lesson that no book could contain, that truth and justice are worth every sacrifice, that dignity is more valuable than life, and that one committed individual standing for right is more powerful than an army of thousands following wrong. They were 72 against 30,000. They had no water for 3 days. They had no hope of military victory. They knew they would all die, yet they stood, they fought, they sacrificed everything. And in doing so, they achieved something far greater than survival. They achieved eternal honor. Today, Hussein's message echoes across the centuries. If you don't have any religion, at least be free in your present life. Stand for what is right, even if you stand alone. Refuse to legitimize oppression through your silence. Value truth over comfort, justice over safety, and principle over life itself. Every year, millions visit Hussein's shrine in Karbala, Iraq, walking barefoot for miles, weeping for a man they never met, mourning a tragedy that happened 14 centuries ago. Why? Because Hussein's sacrifice was not just for his time, but for all time. It was not just for Muslims, but for all of humanity. As long as there is injustice in the world, as long as the powerful oppress the weak, as long as truth needs defending and voices need raising, Hussein's call will remain. Is there anyone to help me? Is there anyone to respond to my call? And to those who answer that call, who choose to stand for truth despite the cost, who refuse to submit to tyranny regardless of the consequences, to them belongs the true victory, the victory of Karbala, the victory of truth over falsehood, the victory of the eternal over the temporary. Hussein lost the battle of Karbala, but won the war for truth and justice. Yazid won the battle, but lost everything: his legacy, his legitimacy, and his place in history. Today, millions name their sons Hussein, but none name them Yazid. In the words of the great poet, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. The choice Hussein faced at Karbala is the choice we face every day. Will we stand for truth or submit to oppression? Will we live with honor or survive with shame? May we all have the courage to answer Hussein's call, to stand for justice in our own lives, and to never forget that some principles are worth more than life itself. This is the story of Karbala, a story of ultimate sacrifice, eternal courage, and the triumph of truth over tyranny. Remember it, share it, and most importantly, live it.